Give people an opportunity to experience it as if they were really there as well. You can't beat that kind of authenticity.
And now, the creative director of Halloween Horror Nights, Mr. John Murdy.
Wow, I get fog. How you guys doing tonight? Wow, there was a lot of you. I'm John Murdy, creative director of Universal Studios Halloween Horror Nights. I'm basically a kid who started building haunted houses in his parents' garage when I was 10 years old, and that's what I still do. So today we're going to take you through the making of a maze called The Walking Dead: Dead Inside. How many of you guys have already seen this maze? Okay, quite a few of you. I'm just going to show you a few of the things that we as the designers of this event put into creating this attraction, and then from there we're going to walk over and take you through the maze with the lights on, which means you'll get to see a lot more details than the guests see during the day, and then at the end I'll hook up with you guys if you want to do a meet and greet, but right now let's get right into the maze. So people always ask us, what do we look for in the properties when we're trying to decide what properties we're going to feature here at Horror Nights? And there's really three things, and they never ever change. And that is awareness or popularity. So basically with Walking Dead, it's one of the hottest shows on cable. So they actually called us before the show even aired, before the pilot even aired, and I turned them down. Because I didn't know anything about it, and I started TiVoing the show, so after we finished Horror Nights that year, I sat down and I said, well, I'll watch the pilot. And then I watched the first episode, the second episode, the third episode. I watched the entire first season of Walking Dead in one setting. So when we got ready to do Horror Nights this year, it was like, yes, let's do Walking Dead. The second, and probably one of the most important things we look for, are iconic environments. You know, the way we think about our event is we put an awful lot of attention into the sets and the props. We want to create movie quality experiences. We want you to feel as if you got up off your couch, stepped through your TV screen, and now you're living The Walking Dead. And The Walking Dead, just in the pilot alone, had all of the things we're looking for. And last, great characters we can replicate with live actors. Our characters here at Horror Nights are called scare actors. And we want to make sure that the characters in the show, and Walking Dead presented a unique challenge that I'll explain in a second, are something we can actually do with live talent. So when we talk about environments, this picture kind of says it all about how I felt about the moments of Walking Dead that we wanted to recreate. And when you walk through the maze, you get this exact same view. We wanted to create Rick, the main character on The Walking Dead's journey. We want to make all of you feel like you're walking in his footsteps. If you know the show, he got, shot, he was in a coma, and he just woke up one day and the world has changed. So we wanted to make you guys feel like you were going through his journey, just like the character on the show does. And that's a still from the show when he looks through the window and sees what we call the God Forgive Us room. And that's our room. Although, we're never satisfied here at Horror Nights. I just walked through there earlier today and he now has a beard, the dead guy. Because he has one on the show, and I was like, wow, where did that come from? It wasn't there the first 2 weeks of the event, and it's there now. So really, when Chris Williams is my art director, production designer, Chris and I design everything from Halloween Horror Nights from beginning to end together. And the way we do that is we put post-it notes up on the wall, and they're basically three different things. It's scenes or environments, characters, and actions. And right at the beginning, when Chris and I sat down to talk about Walking Dead, we both agreed immediately that it had to start with the hospital. That's the hospital from the show. And here's us building the hospital. We work with all kinds of different scenic vendors, prop guys that tend to work in movies and television, and they're extremely loyal to us. They come back year after year. So here's our prop guy up in the air doing all of the bullet hits in the front of the facade. And that's the finished facade, what it looks like under show lighting. Another extremely iconic environment and moment in the show that we wanted to create from the first pilot is the Walking Dead Dead Inside door. So I'll tell you a little secret about how we created this door. First of all, every single wall you see in the attraction, every one of them gets drawn, every one of them gets elevated. It's a drawing package that's probably 60, 70 pages long. That's what Chris Williams does. So there's Chris's drawing for the door detailing all the things that he wants to see. Here's Chris and I when we started building the door. And there's Greg Nicotero with the finished door with all the hands coming out. And the way this works is there's an actor behind that door, there's a camera on you, and the actor has a monitor, and he can see you guys, but you can't see him. So it's like a giant video game for him. He just gets to wail on the door all night long. He also has what we call an audio lighting trigger. It looks like a guitar pedal foot switch. And whenever he pushes that button, it triggers his own audio, it triggers his own lighting. Another one of my favorite moments from the episode 2, or the pilot of Walking Dead, is when Rick comes into Atlanta on that horse, and he runs into that horde of zombies, and they eat his horse, and he has to take refuge in a giant tank. And right out of the beginning, I went to Chris and I said, there's no way we're gonna be able to build a tank. But Chris looked at me with that devilish look in his eye, and he goes, I think I can make a tank. And he did. And when you go through today and you look at it, what you're looking at is a full-size Abrams tank. It's actually half a tank with a giant scenic backdrop that's about 20 feet in the air, and it's entirely made out of foam. It's basically robots cutting pieces of foam and then assembled on site. Sometimes when you design things on paper and you get it out in the field, they don't always work right. We had about ½ an inch to spare with the tank. If you go in that scene and look to your left where the wall is, you can see just about how much room for error we had with this one. This is a little Photoshop study we did to try to understand how we wanted our guests to see the tank. And then that's Chris and us on the set when we were building it with a giant photograph of Atlanta behind it. And that's an old movie trick. That's what they used to do as backgrounds in movies before, digital effects and computer animation came along. So Chris and I, being old movie buffs, we wanted to use an old-time movie gag to pull off this scene. Then we start talking about the walkers. The Walking Dead, obviously the walkers are the zombie characters. And for us, there was really only one way to create those guys, and that was to hook up with a man named Greg Nicotero. If you guys don't know Greg, and that's Greg right there pointing, and I'm looking like, yes, Greg, of course. Greg Nicotero is the lead makeup artist for The Walking Dead. He's also the executive producer of The Walking Dead. He also directs episodes of The Walking Dead. And Greg is a big fan of Horror Nights. He comes every single year. And right away when we hooked up with Greg, he wanted to be personally involved. And as designers of Halloween Horror Nights, we love that. We love working with the creative people, working on whether it's a show or a video game or a movie. So Greg approved all of our sculpts for our walkers, but he also produced a couple of them for us from the molds from the show. I'll give you one example here. This is what we call the Deer Eater Walker. That's the picture. It's actually Greg. He played Deer Eater on the show. And that's Greg on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side is our sculpt. So what happens with makeup, this is called a foam latex appliance. So we have to sculpt that out of clay, and it basically gets baked like a cake. And when we're talking Walking Dead, just prosthetics alone, we had to create 2,000 just for this event. And in the overall event of Halloween Horror Nights, there's 4,000 separate prosthetics that the actors wear. This kind of illustrates, this is from our press event when we were doing our makeup press event, but it illustrates the steps that it takes to get every single actor into makeup every single day. First, you got to put on the prosthetic. We pre-paint ours with the base color of the skin, and then our makeup artists come in and do all the other details. But those are all disposable. You wear them once, you take it off, throw it away. The next night you put on a new one. We have hundreds and hundreds of actors to get into makeup every single day of Halloween Horror Nights. It's like a giant assembly line of gore. And the way we do that is we start doing it about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and that goes all the way up till 6:30, so by the time the event is ready, every single actor is ready and on set. Now, some of the characters are much more involved in traditional makeup, such as Bicycle Girl here. On the television show, this is how they did Bicycle Girl. The blue color she's wearing is digitally removed by the camera. It's a computer effect. We don't have that luxury with Halloween Horror Nights. Everything we're doing is live right in front of you. So we knew we had to do it a different way, and this is the way we did it. We excavated a pit underground. So the performer is actually half underground. She's wearing a creature suit that Greg created from the original molds from the show. Her upper part of the body is above ground. The rest of her is underground. And the finished product looks something like this. So this is Bicycle Girl's creature suit. The girl who is playing this role has to put this on. There's actually a couple different girls. And they have to put it on every single night. and they have to basically pretend like they're cut in half, but it's all a magic illusion. The rest of her body is hidden underground. And let's talk about the horse. You know, this is a detail I think a lot of people don't get when they go through Walking Dead. You know, if you get into that big scene with the tank, look to your left, and you see this horrible scene of a horse being eaten alive. That horse has an interesting history. How many of you guys used to come to Universal back in the old days when we had the Wild West show? A few of you? Okay. If you remember that show, out in front there were a bunch of Western props. They were like photo ops, and there was this buggy, and there was this horse. So some of your children might have taken pictures with the horse. Well, when we closed the Western show, you know, we're pack rats with Horror Nights. We have a huge warehouse just full of props. And we never threw anything away because we never know when we're going to use it. And for years and years and years, we had this horse in our warehouse. And every year, the guy who manages our warehouse would come up to me and go, "Can we throw the horse away? We're never going to use it." And every year I'd say, "No, one day we're going to use that horse." So when we started to do The Walking Dead, Chris was over at the warehouse and he called me and he goes, "I think we can use the horse." So our props and dressing crew took that horse and did terrible, terrible things with it. It's never going back in the theme park again. I think it's done. But when you walk through the maze with the lights on, check it out. It's just to the left as you're coming up on the big tank. And then, you know, sometimes doing Halloween Horror Nights is kind of like the world's largest community theater, because all of us, you know, we're all theater rats. We all were trained in theater. You know, we wear lots of different hats. You know, one day we're directing, the next day we're writing, sometimes we're even performing. So in Walking Dead, you'll see a zombie. It's in the alleyway section of the maze as you're going through. And if you look at it, he's kind of bald. He doesn't have a lot of hair, and that's me. So there's pretty much all the shadow illusions that we do for Horror Nights. They're either myself or my crew members. So this is one example of that as you're going through the attraction. Another thing to look for when you're going through with the lights on is all the detail that Chris and the props and dressing crew put into these attractions. That includes the ceiling above your head. It's a real drop ceiling with those wires coming down. And look at the floors when you're going through the maze, because there's all kinds of details and props on the floors that you might not have noticed when you're going through it at night, including spent shotgun shells all over the first section of the maze. You guys know we also use scent in our maze, and I apologize because I just walked through there and it's a little stinky. We have companies we work with that generate scents for us, and in the case of Walking Dead, it's the smell of dead body. So as you're walking through, if you're wondering why it smells like that, that is intentional. So really quick, that's a little bit behind the scenes of how we made the attraction, and I think we're going to open it up for a little Q&A. I'm going to have Tim over here who's on the mic if you guys have questions. And then how we're going to do this today, guys, there's a very large group of you. After we're done, we'll walk over to the West venue. You guys will get to go through the maze with the lights on. And if you guys have any questions or meet and greet or pictures or anything, I think because it's such a large group and I want to make sure we give you guys that opportunity, I'll go over to the Animal Actors Courtyard because that's a little bit out of the way of the rest of Halloween Horror Nights because everybody's going to be running around trying to get this event open. If you do want to do that, I'll hang out there. I'll hang out as long as you guys want me to and be happy to tell you more about The Walking Dead. But in the meantime, does anybody have any questions? Maybe somebody down here? Right over here. Tim, you want to get that one?
Hi, what's your favorite scary movie?
Ooh, The Exorcist. Yeah, The Exorcist. I should explain, but my mother is a Catholic theologian, author of 7 books. So I was kind of I was set up for The Exorcist to freak me out. And I saw it at a very young age. I still have a really, really hard time watching that movie. It scares the hell out of me, probably because I saw possessed people when I was a child. Right up here, he'll come to you with the microphone. And one day we're going to get the rights to do The Exorcist, and one day we're going to do it at Horror Nights. I've been chasing that one for years. I never give up.
What's your prep time for Halloween Horror Nights?
Could you repeat?
How long does it take to prepare?
Oh, it's a year-round. I'm actually working right now on next year's event. Like certain filmmakers I've started talking to them 2 months ago. I've had like multiple meetings already about next year. But design-wise, usually what happens this time of year, Chris and I walk around we're in the park every night, just checking it out, making sure everything is cool. And pretty much after the first or second week, we start going, okay, next year. And sometimes it's the Igor Awards. A couple of years ago, I met Eli Roth at the Igor Awards, and I hadn't met him before. And the first words out of his mouth was, when are we going to do Hostel? So that started like at the Igor Awards, and this year we had similar encounters with certain individuals. It's pretty much a year-round event. This May started construction in June, but Chris and I started designing it in the beginning of February. So it basically takes an entire year to create it. Any other questions while we're here? Tim, you got one more question and then we're going to walk over, is that right? Yep. Go for it, Tim.
What kind of budget does Universal give you?
I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you. That's actually, no, to be serious, that's actually one thing that theme parks never talk about. We never talk about the budgets, but every year they go up because every year we want to push it. So every year we try to take our quality to the next level, so every year it's, more money than the year before, but millions and millions and millions of dollars. Alrighty, I think what we're going to do, guys, is I'm going to go out to the front here. We're going to lead everybody over to The Walking Dead. If you guys have cameras, you can take pictures inside. There's no problem with that. And then I'm going to take everybody who wants to hang and ask questions, or if you want to take pictures or whatever, we'll go over to the Animal Actors Courtyard right after that, and I'm happy to talk to you guys there. One thing I wanted to say to you guys before we go over is I brought Halloween Horror Nights back in 2006. It was dead for like 5 years. And I used to design rides and attractions for Universal. I designed the Mummy ride. I gave all of that up to bring Halloween back. But really what I wanted to say, well, no, thank you, because the fans are the whole reason we get to do this. And, as a kid who started doing this in his parents' garage when he was 10, I'm always incredibly grateful to all of our fans, particularly our annual pass holders who support this park. Without you guys, we would not be able to do Halloween Horror Nights. I always look back on when we started this thing in 2006, when it was like a little baby step, and I look at how big it's grown. And I just wanted to thank all of you for supporting this event, because you're the reason we get to do what we do. So thank you so much. I'm going to run up to the front of the house here, and we're going to do this.